There's an internet you use every day. Social media, Google, YouTube, streaming services, online shopping. But beneath it, there's another world. Hidden, encrypted, untraceable. A place where identities disappear, laws lose power, and secrets are traded in silence. This is not a myth. This is not fiction. This is the dark web. To understand the dark web, you must first understand one truth. Most of the internet is invisible. When you search on Google, when you scroll through social media, when you watch videos, you're only seeing the surface, a tiny fraction of what exists. The internet has 3 layers. To understand the dark web, you must first understand one truth. Most of the internet is invisible. When you search on Google, when you scroll through social media, when you watch videos, you are only seeing the surface, a tiny fraction of what exists. The surface web. This is what you know. Google indexes it. You can find it with a simple search. Social media, news sites, shopping platforms, entertainment. About 4 to 5 billion websites. Sounds massive, right? This represents only about 4% of the entire internet. The deep web. This is everything you cannot find through a search engine. Your email inbox, your bank account, private medical records, university databases, government files, corporate intranets, password-protected content. The deep web is not sinister, is simply private, is not indexed because it was never meant to be public. This represents about 90% of the internet. Enormous, necessary, mostly mundane. The dark web, a small fraction of the deep web, intentionally hidden, deliberately encrypted, accessible only through specialized software designed to conceal your identity. The dark web is not accidentally hidden. It is built to be invisible. Over 90% of the internet is not indexed by search engines, and a small part of it was never meant to be found. But here's what most people do not understand. The dark web is not one place. It is not a single website. It is a network of networks, a constellation of encrypted sites that exist in parallel to the internet you know. Each site has a unique address. But unlike normal websites that end in .com or .org, dark web addresses are a random string of letters and numbers ending in .onion. They cannot be accessed through Chrome or Safari. They exist in a separate encrypted space. And this raises the question that leads us deeper into this story. Why would anyone create such a thing? The dark web was not created for crime. It was created for privacy. In the mid-1990s, researchers at the United States Naval Research Laboratory had a problem. Military intelligence officers, diplomats, and undercover agents needed to communicate online without revealing their location or identity. Standard internet connections leave traces. Your IP address reveals where you are. Your browsing history shows what you search. Internet service providers log every site you visit. For operatives in hostile territories, this was dangerous, possibly fatal. So the U.S. Navy created a solution, a system that would hide the user's identity by routing their connection through multiple encrypted layers. They called it the onion router. But the Navy realized something important. If only the military used this technology, it would be obvious that any TOR user was a government agent. The system only works if many people use it. If the network is crowded with ordinary users, intelligence officers blend in. So in 2002, TOR was released to the public as open-source software. The goal was not to create a lawless zone. The goal was to protect the vulnerable. Journalists in authoritarian countries who needed to communicate with sources without government surveillance. Whistleblowers who wanted to expose corruption without being identified. Activists organizing protests in nations where dissent is punishable by imprisonment or death. Citizens in oppressive regimes where accessing certain information could result in severe consequences. In countries like China, Iran, and North Korea, where internet censorship is absolute, TOR provides a tunnel to the outside world, a way to access information, a way to speak freely. The technology was designed to protect freedom, but anonymity is a double-edged blade. Because if activists can hide their identity, so can criminals. If journalists can communicate in secret, so could traffickers. If dissidents can avoid surveillance, so can those who exploit, harm, and destroy. Privacy was the goal, but anonymity changed everything. The same tool that protects a journalist exposing war crimes can protect someone selling stolen data. The same encryption that shields a refugee seeking help can shield a marketplace trading illegal goods. The dark web is not inherently evil, but it is inherently neutral. It does not judge who uses it or why. It simply hides them. And in that darkness, two worlds emerged. One seeking freedom, one seeking profit, and the line between them is not always clear. Unlike the normal internet, the dark web does not use traditional paths. It uses layers that hide who you are. When you visit a normal website, your connection is direct. Your computer sends a request to a server. The server responds. Simple, traceable. Your internet service provider knows where you went. The website knows where you came from. Your IP address is visible at every step. But on the dark web, nothing is direct. This is called onion routing. When you access a dark website, your connection does not go straight there. Instead, it is encrypted and sent through a series of random relays around the world. Each relay only knows where the data came from and where it is going next. No single relay knows both the origin and the destination. Let's say you're in London trying to access a dark website hosted in Germany. Your data might first route through a server in Japan, then to Brazil, then to Iceland, then finally to Germany. At each step, a layer of encryption is removed. Like peeling an onion. The first relay removes one layer and sees the second relay. The second relay removes another layer and sees the third relay. The final relay removes the last layer and connects to the destination. The Japanese server does not know you are trying to reach Germany. It only knows you want to reach Brazil. The Brazilian server does not know you came from London. It only knows the Japanese server sent it. The Icelandic server does not know the final destination. It only connects to the next step. No one sees the full picture. No one can trace the complete path. Your internet service provider sees you connected to TOR, but not what you are accessing. The websites you visit see a connection, but not who you are or where you are from. On the dark web, your identity is not visible, unless you make a mistake, because anonymity is not automatic. It requires discipline. Log into a personal email account while on TOR. Your identity is revealed. Use your real name in a dark web forum. You are no longer anonymous. Download a file that contains tracking code. Your location can be triangulated. Reuse a username from the surface web. You can be connected to your real identity. The dark web hides you, but it does not protect you from yourself. And this is where many people fail to understand the reality. The dark web is not a magic shield. It is a tool. And like any tool, it requires knowledge to use correctly. Most people who access the dark web are not experts. They're curious. They make mistakes. They leave traces. And those traces are what others are looking for. Because in a world where everyone is anonymous, trust becomes impossible and danger becomes invisible. Soon, anonymity gave birth to underground markets. If you cannot be identified and your location cannot be traced, then commerce becomes possible without consequences. Or so the theory goes. Within years of TOR becoming public, the first dark web marketplaces emerged. Not simple forums or chat rooms, but fully functioning online stores. Professional, organized, efficient. These are not crude websites. They look like Amazon, like eBay. Clean design, search functions, product categories, user reviews. Except the products were illegal. Drugs, stolen data, forged documents, hacking tools, counterfeit currency. Things that could not be sold on the surface web appeared here, advertised openly, rated by customers, sold with shipping guarantees. But how do you pay for something when you cannot use a credit card? Credit cards leave traces. Bank transfers are recorded. PayPal requires real names. This is where digital currencies became essential. Cryptocurrencies allow transactions without banks, without governments, without your real name attached. You send digital currency from an anonymous wallet to another anonymous wallet. The blockchain records the transaction, but not who you are. Seller gets paid. Buyer gets product. No intermediary. No regulation. No trace to real identities. But here is the paradox. In a world with no police, how do you trust anyone? If everyone is anonymous, how do you know the seller will actually send the product? How do you know the product is what they claim? How do you know they are not a scam? The marketplaces solve this with the same method legitimate websites use. Reputation systems. Good sellers accumulate positive feedback. They build reputation. Their listings appear higher in search results. Buyers trust them more. Bad sellers receive negative reviews. They are avoided. They disappear. In the absence of law, the marketplaces created their own form of order. Not justice, not morality, but trust. Some sellers had thousands of transactions, verified profiles, years of positive reviews. They operated like legitimate businesses, offering customer service, refund policies, quality guarantees. Others were new, unverified, offering deals that seemed too good to be true. And on the dark web, if something seems too good to be true, it almost certainly is. The marketplaces thrived for years. Billions of dollars changed hands. Millions of transactions. Global supply chains hidden in encrypted networks. Sellers in one country, buyers in another. Shipments routed through third countries to avoid detection. Packages disguised. Return addresses falsified. Delivery methods designed to avoid suspicion. It was efficient. It was profitable. And it attracted attention. Because in a world with no police, trust becomes the most valuable currency. But trust can be weaponized. And the hunters were learning how to blend in with the hunted. Not everything on the dark web is real. In fact, most of it is a lie. The mythology of the dark web is more powerful than its reality. In popular culture, the dark web is portrayed as an omnipotent black market, a place where you can buy anything, hire anyone, access forbidden knowledge. Need a hitman? The dark web. Want to buy illegal weapons? The dark web. Looking for hackers who can break into any system? The dark web. But most of these claims are fiction. The truth is far less dramatic and far more pathetic. Let's start with the most persistent myth. Hitmen for hire. Every few years, a news story circulates about someone trying to hire a hitman on the dark web. The story presents it as if this is a real service. It is not. Websites claiming to offer contract killings are universally scams. They take payment and disappear. No service is rendered. No crime is committed. Just theft. Multiple investigations have confirmed this. Researchers have analyzed these sites. Law enforcement has tracked transactions. Not a single verified case exists of a dark web hitman successfully completing a job arranged through these sites. Why? Because murder is not a scalable business model. Actual contract killings require personal connections, trust, shared criminal networks. You do not hire a killer through an anonymous website with a star rating system. The websites exist to steal money from people who are either dangerously desperate or dangerously stupid. The same pattern repeats across the dark web. Hackers for hire? Mostly scams. Real hackers do not advertise on marketplaces. They work privately through established networks. Fake IDs and passports? Some are real. Most are poor quality. Many are just photos sent to you with no physical document arriving. Stolen credit card data? This exists, but much of it is already expired, already flagged, or sold multiple times to different buyers. Counterfeit currency? Usually terrible quality. Often just printed images that look real in photos, but fail immediately in person. The dark web is not dangerous because it is powerful. It is dangerous because people believe anything. The mythology creates vulnerability. Someone curious, someone desperate, someone foolish hears stories about what the dark web offers. They access it for the first time. They see listings that match the myths. They believe it is real. They send payment, and they never receive anything. The scammer is anonymous. The payment is untraceable. There is no customer service, no refund, no recourse. But scams are not the only trap. Some websites are honeypots, fake marketplaces created by law enforcement to identify criminals. They look legitimate. They function like real marketplaces. They have reviews, listings, transactions. But every purchase is logged. Every message is recorded. Every user is being watched. And when enough evidence is gathered, the trap closes. The dark web is a landscape of deception. Scammers pretending to be sellers. Law enforcement pretending to be scammers. Buyers pretending to be confident. Everyone pretending to know more than they do. And beneath all of it is the uncomfortable truth that most people on the dark web are not criminals. They are tourists. They came to see what the stories described. They found broken links, obvious scams, and overwhelming paranoia. And they left. Why do people go to the dark web? Not how or what, but why. Some go for practical reasons. Journalists protecting sources, activists evading censorship, whistleblowers exposing corruption. These people need the dark web. For them, it's a tool, a necessity. They use it carefully, deliberately, and leave when their task is complete. But most who access the dark web are not fleeing oppression. They're curious. Curiosity is the first reason. The forbidden draws attention. You're told something is hidden, dangerous, inaccessible. Naturally, you want to see it. Not because you plan to do anything illegal, but because it's there. Because you can. They download the software, access an onion site, and begin exploring. Most find nothing interesting. A few broken links, marketplaces they would never use, forums they don't understand. They expected chaos, but found boredom. And yet some stay. Curiosity leads to something else, power. On the surface web, you're tracked, monitored, and your data is sold. But on the dark web, you're invisible. And invisibility feels like power. No one knows who you are. No one can judge you. No one can stop you. You can say things you would never say publicly. Ask questions you would never ask openly. Explore ideas you would never admit to having. For some, it's liberating. For others, it's corrupting. They feel invincible. Psychologists call this the online disinhibition effect. When people believe they cannot be identified, their behavior changes. They become more aggressive, more honest, more extreme. Things they would never do face-to-face become easy behind screen. The dark web amplifies this effect, not just because it's anonymous, but because it's untraceable and encrypted. The dark web is not lawless. It is watched. From the beginning, law enforcement understood the threat. Encrypted networks, anonymous transactions, and a global reach. Traditional policing doesn't work here. You can't stake out a physical location or subpoena records from services that don't know who their users are. So law enforcement adapted. Agencies created dedicated cybercrime units, made up of computer scientists, cryptographers, and digital forensics experts. They began to learn the rules of this new battlefield. Rule 1. Anonymity is strong but never perfect. The dark web hides identities, but it doesn't erase them. Every user makes mistakes. Every system has vulnerabilities. Every criminal eventually slips. Investigators don't try to crack encryption directly. They look for human error. A single login from a home IP address, a reused username, a brag about an illegal activity. These are the cracks in the armor. Rule 2. Infiltration is possible. Law enforcement doesn't just observe the dark web. They participate in it. They create fake accounts, pose as buyers, as sellers, and earn trust within marketplaces. They complete transactions, track communication patterns, and document who's buying what. Some operations take years. Agents might spend months or even years building a reputation before they can make a move. Today, the dark web is smaller, but smarter. After years of high-profile takedowns and constant surveillance, the landscape has changed. The large marketplaces that once dominated the dark web are mostly extinct. Too big, too visible, too vulnerable. When a marketplace grows too large, it attracts attention, media coverage, and law enforcement focus. Inevitably, it falls. Now, the dark web is fragmented. Instead of large, centralized marketplaces, it has smaller, more discrete operations. Invite-only forums, private vendors, and encrypted messaging for direct sales. Trust isn't established through public reputation systems, but through personal referrals. The technology has evolved as well. Users are more cautious, employing multiple layers of encryption and other security measures to protect themselves. And as the dark web evolves, so do the risks and mystery surrounding it. If you want to dive deeper into this hidden world and stay ahead of what's coming next, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what we uncover next.